Welcome to the World Class Speaking podcast series. This is a place where you will learn how to present, persuade, and profit by improving your communication skills. Each episode in the series is a chapter from the book World Class Speaking in Action. And each chapter is written by a certified world class speaking coach. I'm your host, Matt Miller, and I've carefully crafted and summarized each chapter in the book. Have you ever given a speech or presentation that seemed to check all the boxes? It was a great story, great point. You delivered it in a dynamic way without error, and you leave feeling pretty good about it, only to find out that your audience felt nothing. The message of your speech didn't connect and resonate with your audience because you were missing the one key ingredient: emotion. In this episode, you'll learn how to resonate with your audience through emotional connection. And this is episode Using Emotion to Enhance the Motion of Your Message. And it's by Tim Judah. And Tim Judah is a certified world-class speaking coach, as well as an award-winning speaker, communicator, and leadership skills expert. Learning emotional connection is super important because it will enhance the message and the audience will feel moved throughout your speech. And scientific research suggests that without emotion, there can be no long-term memory. The goal of the speaker is to make the audience think or act differently after hearing the speech. And in order to do this, you must elicit emotion. The stronger the emotion, the stronger the memory. And throughout this episode, we're going to talk about the VIP method to connect emotionally with your audience. And VIP stands for visualize, imagine/reflect, and passion. And then we're going to get into the 4 different speaking quadrants that helps you change your vocal variety to connect emotionally with your audience, and then we'll wrap it up. So first, the VIP method on how to connect emotionally with your audience. V is for visualize. Help your audience visualize the characters and circumstances of the story. You want to make sure to build up the characters and the circumstances at the beginning of your story, because that gives them time to develop. And then describing physical characteristics will help the audience build a vision of your characters as you speak and connect with them. You want your audience to be rooting for the characters, and this is very important. Introduce your characters early and describe them using the 5 senses. What are they feeling at the time? What are they hearing? What are they smelling? What are they seeing? Think about how you can describe your characters so that the audience can paint that picture in their head. You also want to help the audience visualize their own lives in reference to your story. The more you visualize a character, the more the audience will think of somebody in their life that resembles that character. And if they're going through struggle and they have conflict, then the audience will get on that character's side and will want to see them succeed. And if they can connect that person in their life to the character in your story, then it'll make them connect better with the message. And then the second letter in VIP is I, and that is imagine or reflect. How can you get the audience to think about their own situation as related to your point? Now, you can do this through a variety of ways, but one thing you can do is you can ask your audience a question, and then you can pause and you can let it sink in. Let them reflect on their own circumstances. Let the audience sort through how they felt at the moment of when they think about that thing. You need to give them time to reflect. If you don't give them time to reflect, you lose an opportunity to make an impact. So you can ask questions, and then you can also tell stories. Be descriptive with the stories. Be descriptive when introducing your characters. As you tell stories, the audience is automatically going to think about their own situation, and then they can relate to your story. The more details and descriptions that are added, the more their emotions will change. As more details are added, the audience finds their own connection as they reflect. And that's imagine or reflect. And then VIP, the third letter is P or passion. Use your passion to move your audience. Use energy, be authentic, be excited, and transfer this to your audience. And then another thing to consider is you want to be super passionate and you want to connect emotionally with your audience, but at the same time, You don't want to bring them on a super high high and keep them there, or a super low low and keep them there as well. So you want to give them what the speaking industry calls a release. Don't hold your audience's emotions captive. If you bring your audiences on a high emotional level or a low emotional level, don't hold them there for too long. Offer them a release. A good way to do this is by adding humor. Get them to laugh. And another thing that you can do to showcase emotion is to change up your vocal variety, changing up how you speak and the speed at which you speak. And overall, there's 4 different speaking quadrants. There's speaking low volume, and then speaking high volume, and then there's also speaking slow and speaking fast. So if you think about a quadrant, think about your y-axis as volume. At the very bottom of the y-axis, you're going to be very soft volume. And then as you go up, you're going to have loud volume. And that's your y-axis. And then on the x-axis, think about speed. At the very left side of the x-axis, think about very low speed. And then as you progress to the right, a very fast speed. So you have volume on the y-axis, and then you have speed on the x-axis. If you're in the bottom left quadrant, that's going to be very low volume and very low speed. So if you think about it, if you're speaking at a very low volume and a low speed, that positions you as vulnerable. Now, this combination invites your audience to lean in and connect with you on a deeper, more personal level. So you could think of things like when you're saying maybe, I was stuck, not making progress, unhappy, and I felt like I just needed to give up. That could be an example of when you want to speak low volume and low speed. Now, if you speak low volume and high speed, this positions you with anticipation. This method keeps your audience on the edge of their seats, eager to hear what's next and eager to what you'll say next. So if I was to give an example of speaking low volume and high speed, I could say something like this, and it should have the audience anticipate what's coming next. I could say, and I was walking through the woods and I looked up, and in the tree I saw a raccoon. And the raccoon jumped out of the tree and it started following me. And I started running as quickly as I could away from the raccoon. And then I got to a dead end and I looked back, the raccoon's on my face. And then he pounced. Something like that. You can see how that there's low volume and high speed. And that was my great example of showcasing anticipation with the raccoon. Then you can also showcase emotion by speaking high volume and high speed. And if you're high volume and high speed, that positions you as enthusiastic. This approach energizes your audience and conveys excitement about your topic. If you think about it, I'll give an example here, another great example. I'm going to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers and how they were 2016 NBA champions. And the Cleveland Cavaliers were the 2016 NBA champions, led by LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love. And those 3 got it done, brought Cleveland a championship the first time in over 50 years. And that could be an enthusiastic approach using high speed and high volume. And then lastly, the 4th quadrant, which we haven't touched on, is high volume but low speed. And this positions you as authoritative. And this technique is perfect for emphasizing important points and ensuring your message is clearly understood. An example of this could be teaching your kids a lesson. So I'm going to speak a high volume and a low speed. Let's say I'm talking to my hypothetical kids. You cannot jump off that diving board and dive head first into the pool when there's less than 12 feet of water. This is absolutely unacceptable. And that is another fantastic example by yours truly, giving an example of being authoritative. And those are the 4 speaking quadrants. So to recap, first we talked about the VIP method and how you can connect emotionally with your audience. First is visualize. Allow the audience to visualize the circumstances and the characters in your story, which will allow them to relate to their own life. Second is imagine/reflect, which is the I. Ask questions that allows your audience to reflect on their own lives. And then P is for passion, and passion is translated to your audience from you. And then we talked about the 4 quadrants: high volume, low speed, authoritative; low volume, low speed, vulnerability; high volume, high speed, enthusiasm; and low volume, high speed, anticipation. Something that was recommended in a course that I took was, after you write out your whole speech, highlight in different colors of what quadrant you should be speaking in. And that'll help you practice your vocal variety and making it align with the words on paper. And now that you know the importance of connecting emotionally with your audience, I encourage you to mark up your speech, to remind yourself when you need to be speaking enthusiastically versus authoritatively versus vulnerably versus with anticipation. And this will be changing volume and it will be changing speed, those 2 variables. That wraps up this episode. And in the next episode, you will learn how to bring your characters to life in your next presentation. That's all we've got for this episode on the World Class Speaking Podcast series. Until next time, remember that becoming a great communicator is so important because it leads to greater impact, influence, and income. Thank you for listening and have a great day.